The chair umpire had to ask for quiet, not once, not twice, over and over again, in the middle of a second-round match at a tournament in Canada. 10,000 people, a sold-out center court, a wall of Philippine flags moving in the stands like water, and a crowd so loud that the officials could not get them to settle down long enough to play a point. This was not a final. This was not a grand slam. This was a Wednesday night in Toronto, round 2, and the player they came for was seated 25th. Here is the part nobody is telling you. The tickets to that match were gone in 30 minutes, 30 minutes from the moment the schedule was announced. The tournament director, a man who has been running one of the biggest events in tennis for years, said he has never seen a player ranked outside the top 5 create that kind of effect, ever. Now rewind exactly 12 months, August 2025, same tournament, same city on the map. Alex Eala was ranked 65th in the world. She played her first-round match, she lost it, and she went home. There was no sold-out stadium. There were no flags. There was no waiting list. And in the entire history of professional tennis, going back decades, the Philippines had never produced a single WTA champion. Not one, a country of 115 million people, and the trophy case was empty. So how does that happen? How does a nation with no tennis tradition, no professional tour, no pipeline, no precedent, walk into a stadium in Canada and take it over? How does a 21-year-old who lost in the first round last year come back and sell out 10,000 seats faster than most people can order dinner? Because that noise in Toronto was not about one match. It was not even really about tennis. Something has been building for years, quietly, painfully, in places most people never saw, and it broke the surface in the last 7 days. By the end of this video, you are going to understand exactly what those 10,000 people were actually cheering for. I promise you, it is not what the highlight clips are showing you. But to get there, you have to go back to a night in January when Alex Eala won a set 6-0 and still walked off that court beaten. To understand what happened in Toronto, you have to understand what Alex Eala gave up to get there. She was born on the 23rd of May 2005 in Quezon City. If you grew up in the Philippines, you know exactly what the sports hierarchy looks like. Basketball is a religion, boxing is a national inheritance, volleyball owns the schools. And tennis sits somewhere far down the list in a country with no professional tour, no development pipeline, no domestic circuit worth the name, and above all, no precedent. 115 million people, and not a single WTA champion in history to point at and say that is possible for us. So think about what it takes to be a 9-year-old in Manila who decides tennis is the thing. You are not following a path. There is no path. You are guessing. She was 13 when she got on a plane to Mallorca, alone, 7,000 miles from the kitchen where her mother cooked, 6 time zones from her own bed, to train at the Rafa Nadal Academy. 13. Most kids that age are worried about who they sit with at lunch. She was moving to an island in the Mediterranean where she did not speak the language to chase a career her country had never produced. And here is the detail that matters. She did not come from a family that misunderstood the cost of that. She came from a family that knew it exactly. Her mother, Rizomniego Eala, was a competitive swimmer. She won a bronze medal in the 100-meter backstroke at the Southeast Asian Games in 1985. Her father, Mike, is a business executive. Her older brother, Miko, played tennis too, 4 seasons of it, in the United States, at Penn State. This was a household that had already run the experiment. They knew where the ceiling usually sits for a Filipino athlete. They knew how many talented kids from that country get close and then stop because the money runs out or the system was never there or the world simply stops paying attention. They sent her anyway. And now I want you to notice something, because this is the part that most tennis coverage completely misses. There are roughly 10 million Filipinos living outside the Philippines right now. Nurses in Chicago, engineers in Dubai, seafarers on ships in every ocean on Earth, caregivers in Toronto, families who packed a suitcase at 19, at 22, at 25, and got on a plane to a country where nobody knew their name so that somebody back home could have a better year. When those people watch a 13-year-old girl fly alone to Spain to chase something her country had never done, they are not watching a sports story. They are watching a version of their own life with a tennis racket in it. The homesickness is the same. The video calls at strange hours are the same. The pressure of carrying an entire family expectation across an ocean, that is the same too. That is why the flags come out. That is why the stands fill up. It was never really about forehands. And if you have ever been the person who left or the person who watched someone leave, do me a favor before we go further. Drop the name of your city in the comments. I am serious. There is a version of this story in almost every one of them, and I want to see how far this thing actually reaches. If you want to keep following where it goes, the subscribe button is right there, because what happens over the next 3 weeks is going to be worth watching in real time. Now here is the uncomfortable part. For years, that sacrifice looked like it might not be enough. Talent was never the question. She beat top 10 players, she made headlines, she became famous in her own country before she had won anything that counted, and that turned into its own kind of trap. Because fame without trophies has a name in professional sport, and it is not a kind one. In January of this year, in front of an entire nation that had stayed up past midnight to watch her, Alex Eala found out exactly how cruel that trap could be. January. Melbourne, her first ever main draw at the Australian Open. Understand what that meant back home. The match was scheduled in the middle of the night, Philippine time. People set alarms, families crowded around one phone, offices had streams open in a browser tab. An entire country stayed up past midnight to watch a girl they had adopted as their own. Her opponent was an American named Alicia Parks. Big serve, big forehand, streaky. The kind of player who either blows you off the court or beats herself. First set, Eala won it 6 games to love. 6-0, Parks did not win a single game. At that point, the match is over. In tennis, when a professional wins a set to love, the match ends in her favor the overwhelming majority of the time. The scoreboard was not just a lead, it was a statement. Back home, people were already texting each other, then it fell apart. Parks won the second set 6-3. Then she won the third set 6-2. Final score, love 6, 6-3, 6-2. First round, tournament over, flight home. Sit with that for a second. She won 12 straight games worth of tennis in the opening set, and then she lost 15 of the last 21. Not to a top 10 player, not on a bad draw, in the first round after being completely in control. So here is the question that started following her around, and I want you to hold on to it, because it comes back later. How do you keep believing in yourself when you have already proved you can beat anybody and you still cannot finish? 2 months later, Indian Wells, round of 16. Her opponent was Linda Naskova of the Czech Republic. A player almost exactly her age, born the same year, on the same rise. 6-2, 6 love, that is not a loss. That is a demolition. In the second set, she did not win a single game against a peer on a hard court. At one of the biggest events on the calendar, 12 months of confidence can drain out of a scoreline like that. Then June. Berlin, grass. Eala plays some of the best tennis of her career and reaches the semifinals. And standing there waiting for her is Naskova again, 6-2, 6-4. Gone 2 meetings that season, 2 straight set losses. And the deeper you dig into the numbers, the uglier it gets, against Czech opponents across her whole career. Her record was 1 win and 13 losses, 1-13. Her single victory came against Nikola Bartenkova in a lower-tier final. Second question, and this one is harder. What do you do when the losses stop looking like accidents and start looking like a pattern? Because that is when the conversation around a young player changes. And it changed around her fast. Go back to spring of 2025, Miami. She ran to the semifinals of a Masters-level event out of nowhere and became a global story overnight. Her face was everywhere. Brands came calling. Back home, she went from athlete to national figure in about 10 days, and that is exactly when the phrase started showing up in the coverage. Flash in the pan. A media moment, a player whose fame arrived years before her results, which in professional sport is the most dangerous gap there is. Because the expectations are set at the ceiling and the actual career has to climb up to meet them. Look at the ledger as it stood this spring. Wins over top 10 opponents.